the most important barrier that you need to break is self. It's you, it's I. So what is self? For purposes of this afternoon's discussion, you are the baby who was born female and male for the males who are with us. And you are socialized to be a woman or a man for those who are with us. To make you a woman or a man, you had to fit into a certain social construct. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very clearly, very clearly.
Okay, thank you. So to make you a woman or a man, you had to fit into a social construct. As I know most of you know, it is said that we are born male and female, but society makes us men and women. So the social construct of a woman at the time and place you were born determines the woman that you have become. For those of us who are mothers, we dress our girls in pinks and yellows, and I know we still do that. We dress them in pretty dresses. We give them dolls to play with, while we give your brothers or the boys balls and cars to play with. That's how we socialize you to be women, right from birth. We dress you in blue and expect, we dress you in pink and expect that you will continue being in pink and that you'll understand that pink is meant to be a softer color. We dress your brothers in blue because blue is meant to be a stronger color. We give him balls and cars to play with, expecting that that's the arena you'll be playing in life. And we give you dolls to play with and the miniature kitchens and what have you, because we are seeing you as likely to play in that arena. So we socialized you to be domesticated and the boys to go out and conquer the world. We taught you the value of paid work out there, where we have sent the boys, and we assume the value of domestic work. It's no wonder that financial contribution on matrimonial property reigns supreme, despite the provision in the law that not financial contribution is also important. We socialized you, and I'm talking to the girls now, to expect the male to take charge of all matters considered important. We showed you that you should expect to be beaten from time to time, disciplined from time to time, and that if there is no beating, you should be grateful. We also socialized you for those born of single moms. You grew up seeing moms taking charge. And then of those who were brought up by single dads, you saw your dad taking charge as the cook and many other things. In short, what am I saying? You, the female lawyer today, are the product of socialization. And that
Apologies, we seem to have lost senior counsel. We'll give her a few seconds to try and log back in. Meanwhile, I'll let Mr. Omwanza Ombati make any announcements that he may have. Commissioner?
Yeah. Thanks. I think the chat section of our conversation is open. You can start asking session whereby you are able to interact. I think I can see senior counsel is back. Senior counsel, if you can unmute.
I'm so sorry. How long ago did I go away?
maybe about 2 minutes ago.
About 2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was talking about socialization, and I was saying that you, the female lawyer, and it's the same thing for the male lawyer, you are a product of your upbringing. It's your parents who form the first institution of socialization. So they socialize you to be a girl. They socialize you to be a woman. And they socialize you to expect somebody to, sometimes, depending on the circumstances you've been brought up, to bring the bread. And that's why I hear people asking me, how come, and these are young males, that I was in class with this girl, she was doing better than me, she's got a better job than I, but when we go out, it's not expected that we should go that, I'm expected to be the one to pay. So that is as a result of our socialization. So we are the products of our upbringing, and we are victims of our socialization. There is also secondary socialization that is done by churches, religious bodies, and schools. So in short, my submission this afternoon is that you then, my dear sister, you see the world not as a female, because female is that which is biologically determined, but you see the world as a woman, as defined by your particular circumstances. And that's why what a woman does in Kenya will be different, for example, in some respects, to what a woman does in the UK or some such a place. It's because we have different environmental circumstances that determine our socialization. The reason I was going there is so that I can then submit to you that we look at our environments and the barriers in our spaces through lenses that are tainted with our socialization. One person will look at something and say, this is impossible, I cannot do it. Oh God, it's going. Oh, it's still on. Okay. One person will look at it and say, I cannot do this. This is not for women, or I'm not up to the task. But another person will look at it and say, this I can do. So if we understood ourselves, understood where we are coming from, understood our socialization, then we could mitigate our circumstances. And so for me, because this is important, I'll repeat it, the first barrier to getting out there and getting it is self-awareness. We are who we are because that's how we view and respond to the world. Okay? Because we are mothers, I also must address you and tell you, or some of you are mothers or potential mothers, we are responsible for socializing our children in the same manner in which we were socialized. We are not bringing up children, but adults. Therefore, my call to you this afternoon, let us be intentional in socializing our children and help them break barriers in the future. Then professionally, we are held back by the fact that we have many roles to play as lawyers, as wives, as girlfriends, as moms, etc. But what has worked for me is that recognition of the responsibility that the society places on my shoulders. And it's not enough for me to say, oh, I'm so aware, and I don't have to be the one in charge of my home. My husband also can't do it. I know that I exist in a certain mold, socialized to me from the time I was young. So what I have done is I have trained staff at home to help me with delegable tasks. People who can iron, who can clean better than me, who can cook better than me. It leaves me with time to hang out with the family and also to work. Another key thing that has worked for me is specialization. Because you know what? There is not enough time to be good at everything. So please stop thinking that you can do it all, get better, and get best at what you are good at. It is a journey, but a surmountable one. Thank you very much, Karen. I can take questions when you're ready.
Thank you, Senior Counsel, for just taking us and really insisting on the self-awareness bit behind being the greatest barrier that we all face, and that being female is merely biological, and that the unique circumstances that each of one has is what essentially should determine what we have. So I'll let Mr. Omwanza Ombati, Commissioner, first go ahead even before we have the question and answer. But before then, please utilize the Q&A section for purposes of asking questions. Like I said before, we equally received a few questions from you, which we'll address during the Q&A session. Commissioner, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Members, I would urge you to use this opportunity. It's very hard to get such a senior counsel to find time and interact. So please ask your questions. Let it not be offensive. But she's a great resource in terms of family law, in terms of counseling, in terms of negotiation. I must confess that Senior Counsel is excellent whenever you have a case against her in trying to mediate and find a middle ground. And that is one thing that I've learned, that other than being a litigator, you also need to find a way to resolve issues whenever they are brought to you by your client. Now, Senior Counsel, I have maybe one or two questions. And number one is, how did you find yourself as a specialist in family law? Because since I joined the profession as a young person 20 years ago, I've always known you as the to-go lawyer in family disputes, matrimonial disputes, and succession causes. Was it by choice or was it by accident? How did that happen? That is the first question. Number two is, because you grew up in a different era and you started in a different era than maybe some of us, what did it take for you to rise to the top? I don't know whether that's a good question, but those are the two questions that I would want you to start with. And then Karen can open the floor for the rest. We have quite a lot of questions. Oh, Karen, you want to go?
Yes, just along the same line, I recently discovered something about Senior Counsel. So I was watching a quick one, and you mentioned that your first area of practice was criminal law, and then somehow you maneuvered to commercial, then ended up at the AG's chambers, eventually now moved to your legal niche, which is now family and succession law. And one of the most prominent questions amongst the set of questions that have been asked is, clearly, how did you identify that as your niche area, and how did you grow up set of questions, then assets? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try and answer those questions together. So I was trained as a lawyer of the time that we grew up in, no specialization, expecting to come out and practice law in the way we had heard and seen it being practiced. And so initially I did the attorney generals, I did law firms, so I did commercial practice. And then I was requested to go and join FIDA as the head of legal services at FIDA. And when I got to FIDA is when I learned why I learned law. Because what you carry so effortlessly in your head, Karen, you don't feel it. You don't feel the weight of the information that you have. That legal knowledge can make the difference between life and death for some families in this country. So we dealt with a lot of legal aid in women's rights matters. And you could get into situations where you see that if these people do not get legal aid, do not get legal assistance, they are going to die here, either from physical violence, financial violence, or emotional violence. So that's when that, for me, was the aha moment, and it changed me for life. And then, when you work in a legal aid clinic, you witness so much violence against women. I'm sure it also happens against men. At some point, I asked myself as a young lawyer, so why can we not section off men to one side, women to the other side? Because it is a crisis. And of course, in the course of the night, you know that we were meant to sit together across one another, men and women. That's what God intended. And so I began to ask myself, how do we stem this violence? Because no matter how often we are out there in the public speaking against public violence, no matter how many arrests, prosecutions, and convictions we get, the very following day, you get another case of violation and so on and so forth. It was endless. So I understood that the root of the problem is the family. And actually, all these bullies, if you like, all these perpetrators of violence, both male and female, were born by someone. But the most important is that they were socialized to be who they become in adulthood by someone, and that person is a parent. So I began to understand that the family institution is indeed a very core institution in shaping our lives. And that's why, for me, the Constitution speaks to me when it says that family is a fundamental unit of society and the basis of social order. So I learned the following. I began to pay attention to family. And women began to tell me that, Judy, when my children were growing up, I was in conflict with their father, so much so that I was not even paying attention to them. And then I understood there, right that moment, how our children lose the opportunity to be socialized right because their parents are so caught up in conflict. And when we lose them at that point, you have lost about a generation. So then I determined and I decided I want to work in family conflict because one, conflict is inevitable. That's number one. Number two is if the marriage is not working, then parties should be put apart. But also that we needed specialized services to be able to deal with the sensitive place that is a family. So when I first began to practice, our senior colleagues used to send me clients. They would say, oh, Judy, please take that client. She was calling me at midnight. She was calling me at this hour. I can't deal. So the next thing then that I learned is that it's not enough to go to court and get a divorce decree for a man or a woman, as the case may be, because marriage does not hurt at the legal point. The legal point is where you get the marriage certificate. That's not the point it hurts from. It hurts from the first investment, which is emotional. When a relationship is gone bad, where people feel it most is emotionally. Okay, so I learned that we need to invest in counseling services, in therapy services for families. So that's, by the way, that's the first place where I tell people to go to when they come to see me. Then the second point is the physical.
Apologies, we seem to have lost Nia Council again as she's joining in, but I can see the questions are towards the same direction in terms of work-life balance, starting our careers, and whether it's too early. She's back. So I'll let her complete the statement on. We lost you for about 2 seconds, Nia Council.
I can't believe this is happening to me this very important afternoon. But these are the challenges we live with. So yeah, so that's what I learned, that if you don't help people conflict resolve, understanding that the investment in marriage is emotional first, physical, and then third, legal, you have not helped. You asked me certain questions and I think I've just drifted off. So that's how I got into family law, and that's how I decided to specialize, and that's how I am here today and for the rest of my time.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. That was really illuminating. I've just noticed that there's one point you've made which I've never looked at it.
So they are very.
Can I speak? Can you hear me, Senior Counsel?
Yes, I can.
Yes, please proceed, Commissioner.
Yes. So you say that marriage is not. I think you say that the heart in marriage is not the legal investment. That is at the point whereby people get married. but it's the emotional investment.
Yes.
That's a very interesting point. I've never looked at it from that point of view, I must confess.
Okay.
So now there is a question, Senior Counsel, from a participant.
Yes.
And a participant asks that what advice would you give to your younger self, especially as a lady in litigation? And would that still apply right now? What is the advice you'd give to young ladies right now who are aspiring to be great litigators and practitioners as you are? That is number one.
Okay.
Let me shoot 2 questions first.
Yeah.
The second one is that what has been your experience in running your law firm or running a firm? I think you've answered that, largely how you started. But the question is, in running your own firm, how did you get clients? How was it through the references that you've spoken about, or did you go and pitch? Maybe just a few tidbits. We don't have to go into detail, just so that our younger selves can learn.
Okay, so yeah, not give you all the tricks, but yes, how the last one, how did I get clients? How do I get clients? There's nothing more powerful than word of mouth. You deal with one family, deal with them right, they will refer you and they will refer you. And people are constantly seeking for professionals who will be able to deliver, who have integrity, especially financial integrity. People are constantly seeking, so there can be no greater reference than word of mouth. Also, daring go out there and speak about your subject of expertise, which then means that you've got an area, you've got to have an area that you can be identified with, and in which area you are one of the few authorities that there are. That is what the market out there is looking for. Competence, capacity, efficiency, availability, and if you've got that, then I can tell you there are plenty of clients out there. And then to the question, what would I tell my younger self? I would tell my younger self, have a work-life balance, extremely important, work hard, but also live hard, okay? So I've had to learn this later in life. I have a very demarcated life, so to speak. So I still work all the hours of the day, most of the hours of the day. But when I leave the office, then I have a clear boundary. I go to my family, my social life. My weekend, I'm completely off work. So I do everything I can in the week, and in the evenings do my personals, and on the weekends do my personals. But that also means that you'll have to have dealt with your clients in the week or in the day, for that matter, so that you don't have to carry them into the weekend. For me, that's extremely important. The other thing I'd have told my younger self is to save money. Every shilling you get counts. It counts. Someone is keeping tabs on how much you're getting. So if you waste it, it won't come back. Financial independence is critically important. So I would say, if you can't put aside a shilling every day, young ladies, please do it, because you get to 60 in no time, and then you ask yourself, what happened to all that money that I earned? Karen, back to you.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. You seem to keep on answering the questions that are being raised in the chat section. So allow me to navigate to the earlier sent questions so that there's a bit of a balance. So one of the questions that I completely agree with is, how do women catch up with their male counterparts who are not affected by maternity leave, childbearing? Basically, women have to have a period where they stop, deal with a situation, come back. So how did you navigate that yourself? The next one is, kindly speak on affirmative action and its negative connotations. Allow me to let you answer those 2 questions first, then we can move to the next batch, which Senior Counsel can address. Thank you.
So how to catch up with male counterparts who are not affected by things like maternity and childbearing? My view is that you should not compete with your male counterparts. You actually should not compete with anybody. You will never be on top of this game if you're going that way. Compete with your best self. Are you doing the best that you have an opportunity to be at? That's the most important thing. Now, I can't tell you how important family is. I don't know whether I can say enough about how important it is. So for me, if I had to choose between my career progression and my family, I would choose my family any day. So I don't know that we can therefore compete with the males in that regard. Having said that, it is important to both take care of your family and be successful professionally. And the most important thing for me in taking care of your family, as I said before, is delegating all that which can be delegated. And there's a lot that can be delegated at home. There's also a lot that can be delegated in your office. But in the end, do what you consider to be your very best. Aim at excellence, by the way. Aim at excellence. Be accountable to clients, and success will follow. In fact, I usually tell people, deliver and money will follow. Oh yeah, and then you talked about feminism. What is my take on its negative connotations? You know, for me, my simple understanding of feminism is that it's, sorry, not feminism, I beg your pardon, on affirmative action, is that it's a set of policies intended to address historical injustices. You know, like where women started, you look at the country, we are getting there now, at least we have the Chief Justice and the DCJ, but in many other offices, you will find, especially the elective positions, that we have to have affirmative action so that women can participate. So I don't know that I know of any negative connotations, but I do know that in order to get to a just society where men and women sit at the table together and do what they were meant to do, we do need affirmative action from time to time in certain areas.
Thank you. Thank you, Senior Counsel. Allow me to allow Commissioner if he has any other question before I proceed with the list. Commissioner, please confirm whether you have any other questions.
Yes, I have a question, Senior Counsel. Senior Counsel, when we grew up, some of us were inspired or had an idea of what a good lawyer is. For the years that you've practiced law, is there a male advocate who has really inspired you to be the best version of yourself, number one? And two, is there a female also advocate who inspires you or who has inspired you to be the best version of yourself?
Yeah, there are many, a legion of them. I should have said at the beginning that part of the reason I'm here is because of having had great mentors, both men and women. So as employed, when I first left the AGs by Mashira, Mr. Mashira was very instructive in the litigator that I became, because he used to sit with me and he'll tell me, this is an application for injunction, and this is how you respond, or this is how you argue it, point by point, bullet by bullet. And I was a good student because I took it in. Thereafter, I went to Mudoga Gaturu and Company Advocates, Lee Mudoga, Evans Teka Gaturu, very instrumental also as male lawyers who helped me stand up on my own, as well as Justice Mutungi, who also worked there at the point up to a few years ago. He was my sounding board. He knew everything, even in family, that I did not know. And great women, of course. The Chief Justice was then in FIDA when I was thinking about career transition. Dr. Nancy Baraza, Martha Karua, Lillian Moora, all great women. Incidentally, I should say that Nancy Baraza and Chief Justice Martha Karua, Martha Kombe, are the ones who got me persuaded to go into a women's rights organization, that is FIDA. Because at that point, I was doing commercial law as the Dungo Jiroga and Kwacha, and I should have mentioned, by the way, the former Attorney General, Kihana. He also was very instrumental. He was the one I worked under at Dungu Coach, also very helpful in assisting me grow in commercial law. And at that point, I was thinking, I'm good, I'm fine. I know everything there is to know. I could raise fears, from every of my many pockets. Then my two sisters, Nancy Baraza and Chief Justice Martha Koome, came calling, and they said, should you work, would you not like to transition into women's rights and be the head of litigation at FIDA? And I said, what would I do there? I'm a commercial lawyer. But they kept at it. They kept at it until I agreed to be persuaded. So in that way, they are the ones who helped me change my direction, change my life, and the reason that I am here today. So great people indeed.
Thank you, Senior Counsel. Again, allow me to ask 3 different sets of questions, one from the Q&A, another one from the chat section, and and one from the list. So Doreen Musebe asks, how does one go about career growth and personal growth in the legal profession while balancing and succeeding in both? Personal examples would be appreciated. That's the first question. The second one is, how do you handle male employees who feel they can overrule you at work while you are their boss? The third and last question is, what are the major challenges you encountered while running your law firm? Yes, back to you, Senior Counsel.
Career growth and personal growth. How do you figure them out? You know what I think? That career growth grows on personal growth. And this is the beginning. This is what I said at the beginning. And I can never say that enough, that you need to have self-awareness. You need to know who you are. You need to know what motivates you. You need to know what you need to mitigate as a result of the way you are socialized. Once you understand self, then it becomes very easy to grow in any respect as a family person and as a career person. Why are you motivated in a particular way? Why are you demotivated in a particular way? Understand yourself, understand where you come from, and that's at the personal level. And for me, once you have self-awareness, then you have personal growth. For some of us, we will need therapy because we carry burdens from our socialization. We grew up saying this and that. Maybe we witnessed violence. Maybe we were violated at some point. Those things inhibit your growth, your personal growth, and you cannot say that you have grown personally until you've been able to deal with the very core, the very depth of you. And if you allow me, I'd just like to give the very, very simple example. For me, when people come to me and they're talking about their spouses and how difficult it's been in their unions, one of the things that I ask them is to tell me about how their spouses grew up, the kind of family that they grew up in. And almost all the time, we are able to place the kind of person that the spouse has been or has become to that environment, to that social construction, to that environment in which they were brought up. And then we speak to the client, and ask, and how did you grow up? And she or he is able to tell me, this is how I grew up. By the way, one of the main things we're able to see is that opposites attract. She will describe a very different family that is hers from the one that her husband or wife grew up in. And so you understand that opposites attract, okay? But what I'm trying to say is that if you are able to look into yourself, and it's a difficult thing, to see how you grew up, to deal with a very difficult circumstances you may have gone through trauma and what have you, then you achieve personal growth. And predicted on that, if you work hard and aspire for excellence, for sure, you will get it. It is a question of time. Again, no Rome was built in a day. Certainly this one of growing in the profession will not be built in a day. But I can tell you, if you have sharp indicators, you will see that every day you spend in this profession, doing what is right counts to your total score eventually. What about male employees who disregard you? Hey, if you are a boss, you must make it clear from the beginning what everybody's roles are. avoid conflict by making it clear where everybody stands. Karen?
Thank you, SC. There's so many lessons that we're taking away just from having this amazing conversation. And every time again you address us, there's the one question that I keep on removing from the list. So one other question that someone asks is, what are the emerging trends globally in law, especially for the golden age in practice? Secondly, there's a question asked now about male clients. How do you deal with disrespectful male clients who feel you deserve little pay, especially in respect of their matters? I think you can address those ones as we continue receiving the rest of the questions. Please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat section to ask your questions. Thank you very much. Back to you, SC.
Okay, so I'll start with the easier one. How do I deal with disrespectful male clients who feel that I deserve a little pay? I would say this applies to both male and female clients. I understand that I have choices over what briefs to take or to retain. So I have absolutely no problem dropping a brief respectfully if it doesn't add value to the client, because if they want to pay it, then obviously you're not adding value to them, or doesn't add value to me because of the way the person is dealing with me. So for me, it's very straightforward, very straightforward. Now the golden age, I didn't quite understand that question, Karen. Am I in the golden age as a result of the many years I have spent here? What are we talking about?
I think it seems to connote that you're in your golden jubilee years. I am just trying to take into the author's question.
Thank you. So the question was, how do we deal with emerging trends? Very interesting. Imagine there is an opportunity for every age. So today we were saying Koheri to one of the young people who have been here for the last 1 year. And he said, you know, the other day, last week, we were discussing something that I want to do in the profession. And he said he was surprised that even at this age, I'm still hopeful and looking into other horizons. What am I trying to say? With all this experience that we have, because when you know better, you do better. There's still many opportunities that we can occupy, not just for business, but also for keeping us remaining focused. Yeah.
Thank you. Now to a more personal question.
Okay.
Apologies, Commissioner. You can go right ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, Senior Counsel, I have 2 questions. If you are given another chance, you know, I like joking about this, that if I was an Indian and I was given another chance to be reincarnated, I would choose law. Would you still take the same path, having had this vast experience in the law? Do you feel that you would do it again in another lifetime? This is a philosophical question. The second one is this. Would you advise, you know, our young daughters or those who want to pursue law, that the practice of law still is a good thing to go to in view of the current trends and the challenges that we face as a profession and as a legal fraternity? Is this something that you would advise, for instance, you know, to somebody that you mentor, that they would be welcome to join this profession?
Acting from, would I still do law if I went back to the beginning? I would, actually with more passion than I had when I did it. That time I had no clue about, you know, how the practice of law was. For me, it's, you know, I did it. I mean, I finished my 6th form, I passed, I was admitted to do law. Now I will do it with greater passion, because you know what I know is that it's transformative. And for those of us who are interested in transforming society, in leaving a mark, in leaving this society in a better place than we found it, then I cannot imagine a greater subject than the subject of law. And then I enjoy practicing family law. Why? Because clients, people are their best. When people come to me, we talk about very deep things. And it doesn't matter what you are out there. It doesn't matter that you're a politician. It doesn't matter that you're the wealthiest person or whoever you are. It doesn't matter that you walk to my office from Kibera. The pain of a family gone bad and the need to conflict resolve is the same. So I feel that I meet humans at their best. I feel that this is a place I would feel come back to, even if I was starting all over again. Okay, and then what would I advise the young who are doing, who are thinking about whether to do law or not? I'd still tell them, conflict ain't going nowhere. So we will always need lawyers because we need help with conflict resolution. I would of course tell them that it's necessary to broaden their learning, so that they have what we didn't get, which is law firm management skills and conflict resolution beyond litigation. For many of us, we met mediation after many years of doing litigation. I just tell them to broaden themselves to be able to cover what is available, what is out here now, but that conflict resolution is going to go nowhere. But also, it's very good to be equipped with legal knowledge, even if you are going to become a housewife. So for me, it's still a good place to be.
Allow me to ask you 3 personal questions. And by personal, not your personal life, but how you handle things. So first is, what was the defining moment in your career and what lessons do you learn? Secondly, how do you deal with mistakes at your level, given your vast experience? And still within the same breath, Frida asks, how do you deal with mistakes done by those you work with and those that you are supervising?
Okay, so my defining moment is actually the one I spoke about. It's the one of working in FIDA and having the aha moment and knowing, this is it, this is why I went to law school, and this is why I am here. And I tell people, I am a family lawyer by choice. I made that decision when I understood just how deeply we are defined by family, but also just how at that point we were devoid of people to help conflict resolve at a family level. That was my defining moment. What about mistakes that I make constantly, including this afternoon? I'm okay to take them on. I hope so. Maybe others will think otherwise. But I'm easy about that. I'm human. I'll make mistakes. I take responsibility for them many times. Okay, that's the kind of person I am. Mistakes by other people, we use them as an opportunity to teach. Okay, an opportunity for people to know that they shouldn't be making those kind of mistakes, that they can do better. I think the ones that make those mistakes would be better placed to say whether I could do it better than I do. But I can tell you for sure, I'm not shy to point out when a mistake has been made, in the hope that that person will learn how to do what it is that they did wrong better.
Commissioner? Before
Yes. My proposal is that if there is anybody who's on the platform who wants to ask a question live, maybe we can give 2. We can give 2. 2, actually 3. We give 2 to the ladies, 1 to a man. If you have a question that you want to pose directly to this distinguished lady of the law and letters, you can ask the question so that she gets to us to answer you. Most of the questions that we are asking Senior Counsel are questions that have been shared in the platform through the chat section, and we have a very good actually interaction from the questions. And Karen, I think I would give you a go ahead to ask the next maybe couple of questions, and then we can close. We can, if it's possible, anybody who wants to ask on live, we can give you an opportunity, and then now we close the session.
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay, Mr. Paul, I'm sure you can continue.
Yes, Paul, go ahead.
Yes, my question to Senior Counsel, and good evening, Senior Counsel. to the young advocates, what are some of the dons, at least 3 of them, having practiced law for such a quite long time? What are some of the dons you would advise the young advocates not to do? I believe that the do's are the things you told us. So what are some of the don'ts? Thank you.
Okay, I would advise the young lawyers. Thank you, Paul Mushiri, also my friend in the profession. One of the ones I would tell the young people to do is not to develop an appetite for money that is not theirs. That's the most dangerous thing for a lawyer in practice. It will catch up with you. Very, very, very important. I can't emphasize how important it is, because you have lack of financial integrity. It will catch up with you and people will never forget it. You want to be the kind of lawyers that clients can feel comfortable depositing $500 million with, like they would do with my brother Omwanza Ombati or more, and they know they don't need to spend sleepless nights thinking about what it is that you're doing to their money. So integrity, financial integrity, extremely important. And then of course, there's the other aspects of integrity. You can keep secrets, you can keep clients' confidentiality. They don't come and cry out to you, and the next thing they're hearing that you have spoken to somebody, especially the spouse in family law. By the way, it's highly, highly, highly sensitive about what it is that they told you. So that is an extremely important part of integrity. And then boundaries, healthy boundaries. Don't make friends with clients. I mean, and I mean close friends. I tell my young people here is do not marry clients, okay? So it is possible, of course, that you can meet a person as a client in your office, but you must know when to declare conflict and pass the file to somebody else. If you want to take it further than that, you must keep healthy boundaries. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble sooner than later, because those are clients you met only for purposes of a brief. What happens if you've been going to visit one another at home and you disagree down the line and they want to go to another lawyer? Do you think how that they want to go to another? Do you know how that leaves you exposed? Unbelievably. Choose your friends and choose wisely. So, Masharia, that is where I would start.
There's one question that has been asked that is very important. What are the business skills that are needed within our practice, and specifically the ones that you used to advance in your career?
Now, this is so interesting, because thank you, Karen. I don't know that I ever set out to advance in my career. It's been accidental. It's been by the way. The only thing that I set out to do is to do a good job, a job that I would be proud about, and those that hold me to account would be proud of. And the indirect result of that is advancement in the career. So again, integrity, again, excellence. And the other thing I would add in family law for those wanting to be family lawyers is empathy. If you don't have empathy, it might not be easy for you, because it's a very, 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 very emotional field. Half of the time, I mean, if you look at my boardroom, you'll not be able to see that. But that's what we have in plenty. We do this in plenty. In fact, I joke with clients. I tell them, if you don't use the tissues, then you're going to pay for them. So you've got to know whether you have the bandwidth, the emotional bandwidth to deal with family matters. Thank you.
I'll ask a question for a follow-up from what you said, Senior Counsel. I remember there used to be this very famous saying by Mutula Kilonzo that a client is not your friend. And you've put it in a very rather interesting way, where you say that you should know when to establish boundaries with your clients so that it does not move from the client to a relationship. And if it does, then you have to down your tools in terms of giving out the file. Now, some of these things, some of these insights that you give us are things that you do not learn anywhere. You do not learn them in a law school. You do not learn them in a book. But these are real life experiences that greatly impact on how you succeed as a lawyer. And a question is, senior counsel, is that I mean, in your interaction with your associates, those who work with you, and in your circle of friends, especially amongst lawyers, do you sometimes share these very important lessons? Conflict, self-awareness, I've heard about that, and the importance of family. These are really fundamental issues that have come out on this. And Lillian Karaoke commends you for a YouTube channel that you are now started, which is an eye-opener. Thank you for that. So, senior counsel, maybe your reaction to that, and then maybe then we can conclude.
Okay. With the young, I have many young, and I always have many young in my office. We spend all the time in the office together. And I think this is important that I tell you that delegation in the law firm practice is very important. And I know Bwana Omwanza, you're very good at that. You've got to delegate to people that you have capacitated and you know that they can hold your brief, so to speak. So I work very, very closely, with the young. I no longer type. I mean, I dictate. Actually, we sit here, we now have this big screen, so I don't have to strain anymore, wear my specs, so that I can see what we are typing, and I dictate. And I can have 3 young lawyers at the same time here on different files. And so we're able to get through a lot of work in a very short time. So many of the times we eat here, at least I do. Okay, we eat here. We spend a lot of time together. We talk about family, we talk about conflict, we get to know about their circumstances, and we get to know a lot. Therefore, passing the awareness that we have, that family is important and that they are defined by family. Yes. And you asked me, I think, the same about my friends, my colleagues. Yes, I do. Oh, my good God. By the way, I talk about nothing else anymore. I just talk about family and the opportunity I'm given, even what that YouTube channel is actually about family. So that's all I talk about, Bonamas.
Thank you, senior counsel. We've got I think most people know you as a very serious advocate, and I think they've gotten to see a bit of a softer side of you. We see you taking very high voltage family briefs, and these are questions that because I on my part, when I was younger, I didn't take family a lot of family matters because I thought that you needed a bit of emotional stamina to be able to go through that. Are family briefs rewarding?
Yes, but I take reward differently perhaps from other people. They are emotionally rewarded. They give you a sense of satisfaction that a family sleeps better for having you as a person to look up to. And I'll tell you, it is so humbling sometimes. I say it can only be that God put me here for a reason, because people come distressed from their homes and they see me and they go away saying, I feel better. How can that not be satisfied? What else do we want in life? And then the bills, family law briefs will help you pay the bills, and more than pay the bills if you do them right. You can have a decent life out of family law briefs.
Thank you, Karen. Maybe you can start the conclusion.
Yes. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Senior Counsel for honoring us with your presence, taking time from your busy schedule. You mentioned that today was a send-off for one of your staff, and I can imagine you probably had to leave at some point to attend to us, and we're most grateful for that. Equally, I admire you very much, and something that everyone has kept on asking within the questions is, do you take in mentees, and what is the best way to approach you? I know everyone has to be very proactive within the space in order to be within your presence or the presence of greatness. But it's something I think you can address afterwards about how basically if anyone wants to reach out to you, what would be the best course? And we understand you're very busy. Equally, thank you for being a trailblazer within this space. It's good to have slightly older women who we can look up to and say, now, for example, I get to say that I look up to Judy Thongori Senior Council, and one day I hope to grow to that large breadth and within the same line as you. Equally to Mr. Omwanza, something I want to just make clear to everyone. It's not every senior who gives you an opportunity to serve within this particular space. And he accorded me this particular respect to basically host this series of particular conversations. And I think that speaks to the character that he has. And for sure, I am looking forward to him being elevated to a different platform so that he can equally have the authority and the power to empower the rest of us. So come Friday, 29th February 2023, I am looking forward to seeing you, whether you'll be voting at the Supreme Court, at Milimani, upcountry, or wherever. Coming in to cast a vote in favor of Mr. Omwanza Ombati as the JSC Commissioner. And I look forward to us as an industry and profession growing and supporting each other. And it doesn't depend on whether you're in the young bar, the middle bar, the senior bar. It's really about pulling each other up, because when one person succeeds, the entire profession succeeds, and we need to protect the dignity of the profession. To Crispin, who's behind the scenes, coordinating everything, thank you so much. I think as you're seeing a lot happening here, the spotlighting and the like, there's someone behind the scenes who's doing this. Today we are so much within time, so I will seek the guidance of commissioner on how to proceed. But from my end, thank you for all our recordings in respect of these conversations. The first one till Honorable Patrick Kiage, they are on the Lawyers Hub YouTube page. For this particular one, we are going to share it. I still remain of service to you in terms of the recording in case you ever need the recording. It's my number that is normally on the poster. Feel free to reach out. I think for the ones we've reached out to, we've had amazing banter as you support Mr. Omwanza Ombati. Thank you very much and have a lovely afternoon from my end.
Thank you, Senior. I know it was a challenge getting time. We appreciate you. We appreciate you for sharing your insights about life with the rest of us. I've learned quite a lot, by the way, even in this conversation. And I will take your challenge that I should continue with this series, and I endeavor to do it even outside this election period. Thank you, and do have a lovely weekend. And for those of us who found time, please, we'll continue the conversations, and remember to vote for me on Thursday. Thank you very much, and be blessed, all of you. Thank you, Senior Counsel, and have a lovely weekend. We can now leave the conversation at your own pleasure.
Thank you.